Last week on Mind Your Health.
Am I telling the truth now?
Yeah, that's how we met. Perhaps I should add that somebody else who liked me actually took me to Sabbath school.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
That was
All right.
so cool.
All right.
And then one more thing I got it.
And we exchanged pins, back then BlackBerry was the real.
Right.
I'm from Portland and went to Bush Church. Well, it's our church. It's my church now. It's Guava Gap SDA Church.
It's a highly
He raked his way into my heart.
Oh, wow. That was so cheesy, Anis. All right.
When I fell in love with Paula, still in love with her, we would write letters, and I have at home, the best chicken boxes? I have about 4 or 5 of them filled with letters.
We're very alike, but we're very different at times. I mean, guess who the loud one is in the relationship?
True.
Me?
Everyone said Anis.
No. Admit it.
Yeah,
Admit it. Stop.
One thing that has held the marriage together.
That's easy, Leslie. That's easy. God. God.
If you're upset with each other and you know the kiss is coming because he's going to leave or I'm going to leave, how do you get around that?
Kiss on the
You
forehead.
can't kiss and be angry, can you?
Do not judge the person based on your feeling. Judge the person based on who you know your partner is. So something was said that you didn't like, 20-second count. Somebody may need 50. That's the truth, But it's no. I need 1,000. And I'm just being very open right now. But
Who is more likely to be late for an event? Wow. Okay. Who is the better driver? Well then, there's something for them to discuss later. All right. Who is more likely to be late for an event? Who said I love you first? Well,
Let's see what's in store for this week's episode of Mind Your Health, Couples Edition, Part 2.
Sometimes your body might betray you, and you may have so much to lose. But if you pay attention and you just take some action, you realize it's all in your mind. It's in your mind, so mind your health. It's in your mind, so mind your health. Your physical is essential, but your mind is super special. So mind your health.
welcome to Mind Your Health, where there is no health without emotional health. Last week, we looked at marriage, part 1. This week, we are still looking at marriage. This is part 2 of the conversation and the fun. We ended with a game and a bit of conversation last week, and this week we're going to continue with a game, actually. We're going to start off with a game. They have no idea what's coming, and I'm about to tell them what's going to happen. So what's about to happen is they all have papers and markers. So I'm just going to ask the men to hold the markers for right now. All right, great. This game is what would they say? So I'm going to ask a question, and the question is directed to the male. I have, I believe, 4 questions. The questions are directed to the men. They are going to write down their answers. You have 5 seconds to write down your answers. And women, you are going to think of what you would say. When the time comes, I'm going to ask the women to tell us what they would say, and then the men will show us what they have written. Are we clear? Yes, everybody seems like they're clear. They also seem worried. But we're going to start off pretty easy. All right? So the first question, every male has their marker in hand. I don't want to hear any conversations in this game either, All right. The first question is, what is her favorite color? What is her favorite color? All right. She yes, make sure you're not looking to see what your husband has written. All right. Theodore seems very confused about this color. Have we all written down our colors? All right. We're going to have the woman now tell us. Make sure you have your mics in hand. What your favorite color is. I'm going to start with the Holmes.
Green.
All right. Let's see what he wrote. He wrote green. Amazing. All right. All right. Great. Great. Let's hear from the Marshalls. What is your favorite color?
Blue.
He played it safe. He wrote purple / blue. Is purple also your favorite color?
I do love purple.
Okay. All right. All right. We'll take it. We'll take it. Let's hear from the Henrys. The mic is right. What's your favorite color?
Green.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus.
He wrote purple or green. All right. Sister Murphy?
Okay. So it's red.
He was so excited to show us.
You noticed that these wasn't finished, but that's all right.
I'll just leave it right there.
Yes, he just wanted to hear the red. All right. Not bad so far. Not bad so far. All right. Ready for the second question? All right. So the second question is, where does she most want to travel to? They are now stunned. They are stunned. Can we get some of their facial expressions? Like overall, what is her favorite? What is the place that she's always wanted to travel to?
But you see, life has changed because of COVID.
Sir Holmes is reminding me that this is COVID, so there's no traveling right now. All right, so we look like we have some answers. Okay, let's start with the Murphys this time. Adis, what's one place that you would most want to travel to?
I don't necessarily need to go anywhere. I'm fine.
That works
I will
too.
stay right at my yard.
I really appreciate the excitement from Darren right here. All right, let's skip to the Marshalls.
Spain.
Spain. He wrote Chile or Abu Dhabi. That sounds like a conversation they had based on what she said.
Chile is close to Spain.
All right, the Holmes.
This is even difficult for me. But I have said several times that if I could travel, I would go to every island in the Caribbean.
Sir Holmes.
I was on the other side of the world.
He wrote Europe. Okay, all right. The Henrys.
Okay, so for me, I don't have a specific destination. I don't have a specific destination. So for me, I like adventure. So wherever I can do something different, I would love to just be there. So I know he wrote something.
Theodore, is that what is on your paper? He wrote Florida for family. Can you work with that? All right. Okay. All right. So on to the third question. The third question is. The third question is, who was her childhood best friend? Who was her childhood best friend? I hear Sister Murphy saying, think about it carefully. You cannot get this one wrong. All right. Okay. All right. I think we all have something written. I still see some scribbling happening. Okay, all right. We're ready to go. Let's start this one with the Marshalls. Who was your childhood best friend?
Lauren.
Ah. Okay, great. He got that one correct. The Holmes.
Linda.
Ah, the excitement. Yes. Let's hear from the Murphys.
All right, so I'm guessing he would.
Wow, Darren, I'm worried for you already.
I'm guessing he would put Tamrake or Terry.
Ah, there we go.
Boogie! It's Terry.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
And the Henrys.
Okay, for me, it's Eltonette. Anderson, you want everything?
Theodore. Okay, great. Not too bad, guys. That one seemed to, everybody got that one right. Yeah, okay, great. So your final question, gentlemen. Your final question. What date is your anniversary?
Whoa.
What date is your anniversary? I want the date, the month, and the year.
Just
Jesus
want to know.
Christ.
If Jesus
All right. Everyone is finished. All right, let's start with the Henrys. What date is your anniversary?
It looks like he's writing an essay over there. The 8th of November 2015.
Theodore. He said, talk to me nice. Murphys?
Okay, so I can confidently say that my husband has this one correct, making it 4 in a row. August 3, 2014. You want us to declare the time as well? 12:30.
All right, great. Marshalls.
March 28, 2016.
Okay, awesome. Holmes.
February 27, 1994.
And okay, wait, we have some.
Whoa.
Let's see what you have, Sir Holmes.
I have 93.
He has 93.
He's always adding an extra year.
To the marriage. All right, so that's one part of the game. So Darren is asking to have it framed. He got all four questions correct. All right, so now we're going to flip the script. The women need to have the markers, and the men should have the mics. All right. The look on Darren's face says, listen, I got all 4 right.
It's not fair. Darren is a pastor. God will answer his prayers.
All right. Are we ready to go? The first question. What is his favorite hobby? What is his favorite hobby? Yes, men, make sure you're not seeing what she's writing. What is his favorite hobby? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of writing happening. I'm not sure. I asked for one favorite hobby. Okay. Yes, they do say that women have a little bit more words than men. All right, so I think we're finished. All right, great. So let's start with the Murphys this time. Let's hear from you, Darren. What is your favorite hobby?
Football.
Okay, Adis, let's see the answer. Football. All right, great. That's one in. The Henrys.
Yeah, this one is hard for me.
All right. Currently, my favorite hobby is video games.
Video games, all right. And she had playing video games and reading. Okay. All right. All right. The Marshalls.
For me, currently, it's playing fantasy basketball.
Ah, and she has fantasy basketball. All right. Great. The Holmes.
Playing tennis.
And she drew it and everything. Oh, lovely. Lovely, lovely. All right. So that's everybody. One. Lovely. All right. So the second question is, what is his favorite meal? What is his favorite meal? There's a question from Sister Murphy.
Is it breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Because that can be tricky.
All right. Lunch. Remember, you only have 5 seconds. His favorite meal. All right. Ready? I see Sister Murphy still trying to figure it out. Even though she asked for the specifics, I don't understand. All right, so let's start over here. Let's start with the Holmes. What is your favorite meal?
I would say favorite meal. Paula cooks so well.
She's urging him to answer.
What you wrote there?
Okay, I mean, that sounds about what he said. He said she cooks so well, so I assume that meant everything. She said anything Jamaican.
Anything Jamaican with seasoning he cannot see.
Specific. That's the way to go.
I don't like onion elder.
He doesn't
So
like
cut
to
it up
see the
fine so I
seasoning.
don't see it.
All right.
No problem.
All right, let's hear from the Marshalls.
Well, you said lunch. So lunch, when you go out and stuff, usually my default is like fried chicken and curry goat gravy.
Ah, wise man. A wise man. She has fried chicken. She knows exactly what he wants. Let's hear from the Henrys.
All right. That would be pasta.
Pasta.
Specifically cheesy.
She wrote pasta.
Yeah.
Chicken Alfredo pasta.
That's the one. That's the
All
one.
right. And let's hear from the Murphys. They look so stressed together. I don't understand what's happening.
You said this is about mind your health. I'm feeling a lot of pressure. If it's breakfast, it would be ackee and saltfish. But lunch, I think I'd veer towards curry goat. So,
Curry goat.
Try again, Elder. Try
Okay,
again.
let's see what was written. Let's see what was written.
Try again, Elder. Try again.
Let's see.
Bam!
Ah, she had curry goat. Okay, all right.
guys, it become a mix.
All right, looking good so far. All right, the third question is, which holiday, this one could be a bit tricky. Which holiday does he enjoy the most? Which holiday does he enjoy the most? You might have to do some thinking for this one. Which holiday does he enjoy the most? And I mean, it may not be specifically about the holiday itself. Maybe there's something that happens during that holiday. Which holiday does he enjoy the most? See some scribbling happening. All right. The question is asked, how many holidays are there again? All right, that looks like everyone is finished writing now. Just about? Okay. So we're going to start this one off with the Marshalls. Which holiday do you enjoy the most? It is a hard question.
It's two. I don't know if I say enjoy, but I really appreciate Good Friday.
Okay.
It really is a spiritual time for me, in terms of what it represents. I think we should spend a lot more attention to what it means. But also American Thanksgiving. We don't do it here, but when I was in America, American Thanksgiving was, food I was running.
Okay, all right, let's see what she has. She questions, how could she forget Thanksgiving? She has summer because they travel together. There's a reason there. Okay, all right. Let's hear from the Murphys.
I like Labor Day because it's a time when but I think I'll give it to Christmas. I think I'll go with Christmas. I think.
All right, let's see what Eddie's
this is the man you married to.
No, Christmas. I like Labor Day, but I think I'll give it to Christmas. That time we had to meet with family and stuff like that.
Boy, Darren, you look very sad.
She wrote none in particular, but Christmas he likes. Which is fair. Based on what he said, that's a fair response. Let's see what the Holmes have to say.
Without question. Christmas, the one we've just finished.
And she has Christmas written. All right, with the drawing, of course. Let's hear from Theodore.
I don't have any particular holiday.
Is that what was written? None. Oh, wow. The holiday that he can spend with her. Okay. All right. Last question. This might take you a little more than 5 seconds. How many cousins does he have? How many cousins does he have? Yes, I'm sure this one is particularly hard. Brackets like a range. You can use a range. 10 to 20, 10 to 15 in fives. You can use a range if you'd like. I think some of us can relate to that, Sir Murphy. I see someone helping someone else over here. I'm not sure I agree with this assistance. All right. Yes, Sister Murphy, you have another question.
All right. So the first range is 10 to 15. What's the second range? 15 to 20. Okay, so it's in fives.
It's in fives, right?
Okay.
If you have a specific number, you can write it, but if you have a range you'd like to work with, you can do the range as well. All right, I'm going to have to ask you to get those markers to paper, ready for the answers. The men aren't even sure how many cousins they have. That's the funniest part of this. If you're not sure, you can give a range as well.
I can't give a range.
This one is tough for them. We're going to work with the question. We're going to work with it. All right, so we're going to start over here. This looks like the more sure side. The Holmes and the Marshalls. No, it's not. It's not. All right, let's see what happens. Tell us.
And this would be cousins who are alive, clearly.
Okay, cousins who are alive. Mm-hmm.
It's easier for me to say I really don't know.
She says stick with that. All right, let's see her answer. I have no idea. Well, it seems that they have agreed on this one. All right, let's see what the Marshals have to say.
May I just say quickly, Leslie, as you ask about it, and you would notice I drew a downward smile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of, if you had asked me how many cousins I have, I could tell you.
Okay.
But Errol wouldn't know because of, some sad stuff in the family.
Okay. Fair enough. Marshals.
Well, I was trying to mentally tell Marshall to say enough. many. Because it's a lot. And you could quantify, but then you have cousins and then you have their cousins as well, their children coming onwards. My father's side is huge. My mother's side is huger, but I don't know them as well.
Right.
So that's enough.
And she wrote,
I think we can communicate telepathically.
she wrote, enough. Wow, that's beautiful. Love that. All right, let's see what the Henrys have to say. Theodore, still confused.
I mean, I can tell you how many cousins I have on my mother's side. For example, on my father's side, there are 12 siblings. And those 12 siblings,
right.
I don't have a clear concept of how many cousins I have. Cousins, I really don't.
And she wrote? She asked, so what's your answer?
Okay, so on his mother's side, he has 5 cousins. And on his father's side, he has plenty. Too many to count.
Okay, is that correct? Ah, all right. That is correct. And lastly, let's hear from the Murphys who are still trying to figure it out.
I honestly don't know how many cousins I have. If I was going to, it's not an altar call. I'm really just trying to
altar my cousins.
I really don't know, but for those who may get a chance to watch this, just tell me I'm your cousin. I don't know all. I really don't know.
Put it in the chat.
All right, Adis.
All right, so this one was difficult because when you calculate his father's side and his mother's side, I'm sure we can go up to about 20 safely. So I had 15 to 20, but then in brackets, we're just not sure.
Not sure.
Not
Okay.
sure. Not sure.
All right. That brings us to the end of this game. And I want to talk a little bit more. I know you guys had some stuff that you wanted to say from earlier. And we want to just get into a bit of a conversation right now. We played that game, right? The idea of the game is to see how well you know or how much of an idea you have of your spouse. Even with that last question, I wanted to point out that you may not always know exactly what it is, but it would mean that you guys have had the conversations. It would mean that you've been listening in those conversations. Can we talk about how important the idea of communication is? And in that idea, as you speak up, I want each of you to give us like an example, something that happened within marriage that was probably like a difficult thing that you guys had to maneuver. And at the end of it, you realized how important communication was.
Well, let me
He's ready to speak. Go right ahead.
So we're talking about communication, and I think Theo raised the point about understanding. So I enjoy what I do professionally, but I have been tired recently, and so I don't know if Paula said it to me or I said it to her, but Paula said, take a mental health day, which is take a day.
Right.
Mind your health, take a mental health day. Jeffrey laughing.
There's a lot of laughter happening here.
It took a while for me to get to the point of taking a day. So remember now, this is my mental health day. This is for my mental health, for me to do something for me. So we agree on the mental health day, and I told Paula I'm taking the day. And so on the day that I'm taking off now for my mental health to do something for me, to take care of my health, Paula says to me, good. On your mental health day, you're taking me shopping. So, communication, understanding. So on my mental health day, we got dressed and I took her shopping.
That wasn't all. We did other things for you. Tell me you didn't have a good day.
Had a wonderful day.
Best answer. Best answer. And see, that right there, that's it. That's that communication that we're talking about. That's it right there.
It's true, but communication is crucial. I've learned. I had advised Errol when he lamented his concern. I said, it's your own fault, basically speaking, because you should have clarified from before what was what. And one thing that I've learned is to always I wouldn't say question everything, but clarify. And I think Marsha J has seen that. Everything he asks is to ask questions. What exactly do you mean by this? Everything is laid out. So I don't want there to be any ambiguity to the situation. That's at the surface level. At a deeper level, communication, I believe, is the foundation. Well, one of the foundations of a successful marriage. I want to make a special plug for the presentation that Family Life had early last year with Dr. Barry Davidson. If you're listening online now, it's on YouTube. Please go listen to it. It's wonderful. It's excellent. You can't pay to get that kind of information. It's a seminar on communication. But the upshot is that speaking and listening as well, hearing what's being said and understanding is essential for a successful marriage. And it's one thing that every couple really needs to have. Everybody needs to have it, especially a couple.
Okay, all right. You wanted to share with us your example, something that happened in the marriage that made you realize how important that communication is. Either one of you. They're thinking about it. We'll come right back to them. Murphys, are you ready for us?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Communication is so important. And ironically, my field of study is in that particular area. So I came into the marriage with some sort of added training. So I expected that upon arrival into the marriage, we both would have been good because, having an added communication background and my husband articulates well, that we would have been great. But I recognized in the early days that we had just some really simple challenges because of expectations, of expectations that I had that I didn't clearly communicate, and the same on his part. But I also learned that early in marriage, men and women communicate differently. I mean, I grew up in a household with a sister, no brothers. The only male was my father, and he was a pretty good communicator. But now living with a man and having to converse with him, to ensure that you're on the same page, it took some learning for me. So I remember once a friend of ours came over and they were watching football. Astor, good evening, if it is evening for you, or good morning. And they sat in the living room, couch, and they were watching football, and Darren said, I say, see that? Asa say, Darren says, yeah. Asa says, yeah, man. And I'm like, what was that? Like, what was that? That was a whole blown conversation. Like, they got it. They got it. And I looked at them in awe because I was trying to figure out what just happened.
What
like, for me,
was that?
It takes 20 or more words to ensure that I express myself clearly. But obviously, just understanding too that he is not constructed the same way I am, both the fact that, biologically he's different, and also we're from different backgrounds. So that's one point. Number two, feedback is so important when you communicate, because sometimes as a sender, you may think that you would have communicated clearly, but until you would have heard from him that he understands in a way that you meant it, no. And so we've had some of those instances where I say something and Darren does something completely different. And I'm like, babe, that's not what I say. And he's like, but this is what you say. And I'm like, no, that's not what I say. Why is it that we're always having these clashes?
Yeah, thanks. Ditto, I agree. I think one of the challenges that I've had, though, is trying to communicate in a way that she understands me. Because I go through different phases, and I use the pastoral thing right now. What I'm called to do has many facets to it. Emotionally can be taxing, physically can be taxing, and sometimes I'll hold on to things and not share. I will more internalize. I don't share or open up a lot. But when I do get to the point of opening up, if it's on the negative side, I may blow up. And then she would say to me, you had this inside all along and decided not to say anything. And I said to her, well, sometimes when we have conversations, I don't like your responses. And she said, what do you mean by that? She said, well, I will say this and you will deduce that. And I said, well, that's why I find it difficult sometimes to say some things to you, because how you process and what you give back, I don't appreciate. And then we had to work through that over a period of time to the point now where I can understand that she thinks a particular way, I think a particular way, she communicates a particular way, and so do I. So we're at the place now where we're able to understand more and appreciate more her communication style and her responses. So sometimes she means no evil, she means no intent, it's just regular speech. And I'm like, seriously. Seriously.
Leslie, may I just say something on that before you go
Sure.
to Theo? And I want the audience to understand this, that Darren has just described is not a troubled marriage. This is a healthy marriage.
Right.
And what is healthy about this is that there are two normal people who are thinking, who are talking, who are exploring, and who are getting the feedback.
Right.
Jeffrey talked about understanding. The only way for Darren and Adise to understand each other is to do exactly what they have just talked through, what they've just talked about. And many marriages are in trouble because of this thing called silence. You cannot have a healthy marriage if you don't speak, if you don't share. And I'm going to point out, shouting and screaming and loud voices is never a healthy way to talk. But I think silence is worst. I think it is better to get it out and get it understood and take a break and come back than to go the silent treatment. Because silence is Satan's strategy for making you think that there are other places to go to get understanding than your marriage. And that is dangerous. So that is a healthy marriage that you've just heard described.
Correct. Let's hear from the Henrys.
Okay, so I mean, communication, we always hear about, hey, ensure that this is a part of your marriage. And it's surprising that all of us mentioned that this was the first thing that caught everybody's attention. The conversations, it was fun. And for me, I heard the same thing, ensure that you know that this thing will come with a lot of challenges. But I could not imagine communication being one of them. Like, we chat enough. Theo is a media personality. I am a social person. I speak a lot. I interact with people a lot. But then you realize after you say I do and you start living together now, like, what happened? Is it like, am I speaking a different language? Can't you understand what I'm saying? And I can relate to Darren and Adise's example, because those were two of the things that we also had to deal with. But just to add a bit more, another part that we had to deal with a lot was understanding the way each other communicates. Now, I am a, how should I say it? I'm a person who comes home, or when Theo comes for me, I relate to him my day. For me, that's me having you being a part of what's happened. So, how are you doing, honey? How was your day? I tell him how was mine. I expect feedback when I ask that question, but Theo look at me like, you mean how my day? Like, he's confused. How do I answer that question? And I'm like, how can you not answer that question? It's a simple question. How was your day? Anything special happened? And as simple as it sounds, we would be there arguing about this thing. And for me, I enjoy telling him what my day was like. This is what happened. I think it's, for me, in my mind, this meant us knowing and understanding the parts of each other that we weren't physically there to see. But Theo, on the other hand, he wants to talk about big philosophical stuff. That's how I feel. and for me, it's good enough because I do this, but it's not my everyday. So you pick me up and you start talking about, I wonder what it's like on Mars. Like, babes, why are we talking about Mars?
No, Theo.
Kind of cheesy, no?
That's of course. That's a poor example, but just showing it's just that he may come up with something that my mind is just not there after a long day of work. I don't want to talk about this. And then my reaction is now a bit negative to his question, to his interaction with me. And then you realize that communication, everything just start breaking down because what I want to talk about is not what he wants to talk about. And then you realize that over time, you may talk about it, you may try to correct it, but then it happens again, and it happens again, and it happens again, and you're like, oh my gosh, will this ever stop happening? And then there's this point of frustration, like, why can't we get this right? So to add to everything that was said, it's really important for us to be able to understand, I guess I could say, your partner's love language, right? And knowing what it is that gets them. So for us now, he tries to small talk, and he's doing a pretty good job.
She's well done.
And for me, sometimes I'm not in the mood to entertain certain conversations, but I put on my best smile and I sit and I listen attentively. I mean, sometimes he sees that I'm just doing it because, but at least we can now laugh about it, and at least he sees that the effort is there. So we make a big joke about it, and it's no longer an issue. It's no, okay, yeah, it's whatever right now.
Right.
Let's talk
Theodore,
about Mars.
Right. Disclaimer, I've never had that conversation about Mars, not yet at least. Maybe one day when it becomes a thing. All right, so just to go back from my perspective, so she's right. Alpha will come into the car and she just starts relating her day. I don't even need to ask. And I don't need to do much more than like say, yeah? Like that can happen for 2 hours, right? She's willing to 2 hours. All right, hour and a half. It took us a while to get to right. Whereas I tend to be a more focused conversant, right? I have a topic that I would like to approach, whereas Alphan is brethren. Whereas Alphan would like to just generally convey information. Some of the fights that we've had started with me, in my opinion, being very mild and saying, so what am I supposed to do with that information? And that sets her off. Like, what do you mean? Right, I thought I was being mild, but I can understand how it might seem insulting. She brought up a point about love languages. You see, the thing that we learned about love is that many people come into marriages with a concept of what love looks like. I realized, and she has realized, that she cannot love me how she wants to love me and make me happy. She has to love me how I want to be loved, because that's what I appreciate. And I have to love her how she wants to be loved. And so I reached a point where rather than when she jumps into the car and I tense up and I bear an hour and a half of small talk, which I don't want to do, I engage it. And I realize that it's not so bad after all. And she realizes that I don't want to talk about Mars, but I want to talk to you. And so she engages the conversation about Mars, loving me how I want to be loved. So you've had that conversation? And I love her how she wants to be loved. And honestly, I think that was one of, when you're playing a video game like Mario and here, and you level up, that was a level up for us when we decided to do it how each other wanted it.
Wow, lovely. At this time, we're about to wrap up, but right before I wrap up, we just want to take an item of music.
Je t'aime, te amo, ya tidia litru, anyi otve otka. I love you. When the sounds are different as the lands from which they came, and though our words are all unique, our hearts are still the same. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And we learn to speak it, all the world will hear. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. We teach the young our differences, and yet look how we're the same. We love to laugh and we dream our dreams. We know the sting of pain. From Leningrad to Lexington, the farmer loves his land, and daddies all get misty-eyed to give their daughters hand. Oh, maybe when we realize just how much there is to share, we'll find too much in common to pretend it isn't there. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. Once we learn to speak it, all the world will hear. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. Though the rhetoric of government may keep us worlds apart, there's no misinterpreting the language of the heart. Straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And once we learn to speak it, all the world will hear. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And once we learn to speak it, all the world will hear. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. Love in any language, straight from the heart, pulls us all together, never apart. And once we learn to speak it, all the world will hear. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. Love in any language, fluently spoken here. Spoken here.
Thank you for staying with us at Mind Your Health, where there is no health without emotional health. We've been having the conversation about marriage, facets of marriage, things that are integral to ensure that the marriage is long-lasting. We're here with 4 married couples, the Murphys, the Henrys, the Marshalls, and the Holmes. And it's been a pleasure having them. This is our part 2. If you've missed part 1, by the way, you should go ahead and watch that because that was really interesting as well. And then you can continue watching this episode. We want to hear from Ella Marshall, who has something to say, and then we will wrap up the conversation.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on the communication aspect. 2 things came to my mind when you asked about my example. One thing I would say is the idea of mind reading. Early in our marriage, a couple of times, I would be, with Marshall, we, enjoying ourselves, and then I see a mood change, and I wonder what happened. And then later on, because I've become a Marshall whisperer, so to speak. right? And it came to me and I'm asking, what's wrong after the fact, saying, what happened? And he said, no, I wanted you to do this and that. I said, so why didn't you tell me? You should have known. I said, how should I have known? To read my mind, I said, Mar, there are many things I'm learning with you. I'm picking up on a lot of things from you, but mind reading is not one of them as yet. And from that, I said, whatever need you have to, say it, express it. I've become better at getting hints. Yes, I will say that men should not be so oblivious to hints that you can't read it, but you can't rely on hints alone. And the other thing I wanted to talk about when Adis mentioned it in terms of what is said, for me, it's not necessarily what's said, but how it's said. And how it is said is something that really impacts me more. If I've done something to you that offends you, right? And it's bothering you and you tell me, the truth is not going to offend me if you're telling me that something is hurting you. But if you say it to me in a way that makes me feel insignificant, makes me feel small, makes me feel resentful, the way you say it puts me in a certain thing, that's going to be a huge problem. So much more than what you say, I think that how you say something is much, much more important in a marriage than what exactly it is you're saying. Long as you're speaking the truth in love, you're gone clear.
All right. Sister Marshall wanted to respond.
Quick follow-up on what Jeffrey just said. Everything he said is very true. And it helps me to segue into the point that whereas communication should be open and honest in a marriage, this brings me to the point where you have to be mindful of what you say, how you say it. For example, I remember a time when Jeffrey asked me my opinion on something. I don't remember what it was now. And I decided not to share, not because I wasn't being open and honest, but just because I told him that there are certain thoughts that don't deserve oxygen. There are certain things that you have to decide. You have to strike the balance between being open and honest and what you think is non-productive to the marriage, non-productive to the conversation at the time.
Yeah, but what may be serious for you may not be serious for him, and he would require feedback. But I'm not going to go on that one. Sometimes I've recognized that no matter how you say something, it will still leave an impression, sometimes negative. So I'm not leaning toward the side of saying, can choose your words, yes, but sometimes no matter how you choose your words, the person will leave feeling bruised or hurt. And I often ask the question, how do you deal with that? And we're still at that place. How do we deal with that?
Well, I would say how a person receives something is up to them, Some persons are not yet ready or able to accept the truth about themselves. A lot of times, I think. For me, I would say that if you're going to get married, before you get married, take the time as a single person to really know yourself, the baggage that you're coming in, and your trigger points, etc., so that when you come, you're able to understand more of when you're going to actually be in a relationship with somebody else. And so the truth is, you can't be in a marriage and have something that's bothering you and you're just soaking it up all the time. You have to be able to tell the truth at some point, because if you don't, it's going to come out one way or another, and you want it to come out the most positive way that it will.
Right.
So if your spouse is unwilling to accept honest truths about themselves, right, then you're going to have to find a way to help the spouse say, why is it that you're unable to accept an honest truth when presented in love? Because love doesn't hide anything. Love admits all and covers all and it heals all, But if you are unwilling, if you're willing to deny reality and to just live in a fantasy world or say pretend that everything is okay, then that's a deeper underlying issue. So I would encourage persons to say, if you're saying that I can't talk to my spouse about something, then that's something that itself needs to be spoken about. You should be able to honestly speak about whatever issue is there and deal with it in a productive way.
We'll have our last point from
Jeffrey
Holmes.
spoke about speaking the truth in love. And I was going to go to Darren as a pastor to ask Darren, what does that look like? And as I thought of that, Proverbs 25:11 came to mind. And it says, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver.
Mhm.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around this image, but the impression that I'm getting is that your truth must be spoken in love.
At the appropriate time.
What does that mean? At the appropriate time, with the right expressions, with the right motive. Listen, we're human beings.
Right.
We're not going to always get it right. And there are some things that must be said if a marriage is to work. Because one of the purposes of marriage is to hold each other accountable before a just and holy God. But it doesn't mean that we must be beastly and insensitive and harsh, which we are. God help us, because Lord, Errol Holmes has zero patience. But she has stayed with me for 33 years now, and we've been married for 27, and we're still growing. What am I saying? Communication is critical. And perhaps the only thing I would say, Darren, you're the pastor, so you have the last word, is this. If we pray before we speak, help me, Jesus. If we pray before we speak.
I just...
it seems that they're all burning to say
No, but
something.
I'm done. Go, Theo, because
All
Darren
right.
has the last word.
The thing is, what I find listening to the points here is that there's a heavy element of context in marriage. There are some times when this works, when that doesn't work. I have found it very difficult to have a marriage with inflexible rules. There are times when something I say annoys her, and I will say the same thing another time, and it does not annoy her. So context come in, and I agree with what I'm hearing. Season your speech with grace. Aim to speak the truth. Also, I also completely agree, because I live this, that I won't get it right all the time.
Yes.
So as our sort of final thing to this, we have learned how important it is to be willing to go through it all. And I'm going to put it this way: learn how to fight good and learn how to disagree good. Because if you think that you will not disagree, you are heading onto rocks. The disagreements must come, as much as we try to be good. So I've come up on many situations in our marriage when I'm upset with her and she's upset with me, and it feels like the end of days. You know what gets me through those days? My willingness to go through. I realize that tomorrow I'm going to wake up and she's still going to be my wife. So we're going to fight with all our heart right now.
Yes.
We're going to try to fight clean.
Yes.
We're not going to get it right sometimes.
Yes.
Because when your head top are hurt, you know,
Yes.
you don't always have the time. And I'm better at this, for example, than Alphan. Alphan will say what she's thinking.
Yeah.
Me, I will probably process a little bit, right? But I realize that tomorrow we are still married.
I would say
and
this.
these are your final thoughts,
Yeah,
Sir Murphy.
I would I would say this. Oh God, we can't get some more time.
Episode 3.
Some people are at home, I know they're asking, what they're saying, is it real? Because I know people are going through some serious marital problems. And they're wondering, is this really true what they're saying? We have a program on the radio. Sure, persons always ask, what Darren Adisa top, what them know about? And there are times that we have a conflict because what we're saying is not what we're doing. And it's hard. But what I've relied on is the fact that we ought to
Focus.
We ought to appreciate the gospel. And I think that's what we should be living throughout our lives. I mean, the gospel thrills, the gospel changes, the gospel empowers. And Paul said, I'm not ashamed of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it shows us how wicked we are, that somebody had to actually die for us. And I think daily we should see that this person is like this, but Christ died for this individual. And the other should say, this person is like this, but Christ died for this individual. So we should be dying for each other every single day.
And
as we do that, I think it really connects us and brings us to the higher source together at the foot of the cross.
Let everybody let everybody in the chat, everybody who's watching EJC Mind Your Health program this evening, realize you saw it first. Please shine the camera, focus the camera on that. We have, on what Adis has, please focus on that. Make it big for the whole world to see. All 2,000-3,000 persons look. Many people look at that and think that that is just a spiritual intervention on a Sabbath or a Sunday when you're calling people to make a decision for Christ. For every marriage, we need an altar call.
Yeah.
And what is that altar call? Adis is going to go down. You have created this concept, but the Lord has just given me that idea. If in our marriages we come to the point where we say to Jesus, we don't know what to do. We're committed to each other. And like Theo said, he and his wife, they're vexed with each other. Paul and I vexed with each other. Well, the Marshalls don't get vexed. You know, they're still brand new and everything else. But the rest of us, you know, we get vexed with each other, but we are intentional. We want to stay in this marriage. This love is to last. But there are times when we need an altar call. There are times when we need to come to Jesus and say, Lord, I surrender. I'm surrendering to you. I'm surrendering to my spouse. I'm surrendering to me. I need some changes. Perhaps you're bringing this circumstance just to give me an opportunity to relook at myself, because you sent Paula into my life to give me a clarion call that, Errol, you need to change. An altar call. Every marriage needs an altar call.
Amen. Amen. I have been sitting here quietly because obviously I cannot add so much of what has been said.
Not yet, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
But this has been a really enlightening conversation. I hope that anyone who is watching at this time can also say the same. You have learned something, you have enjoyed, you have laughed with, you have had something to think about. You have something to think about moving forward, whether you are in your marriage at this point or you are moving towards marriage. Thank you for being with us once more at Mind Your Health. And there's so much more in store for you with us, so I hope that you will be with us here next week, Thursday, again, as we have these conversations about our emotional health. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. Mind Your Health.
Sometimes your body might betray you, and you may have so much to lose. But if you pay attention and you just take some action, you realize it's all in your mind. It's in your mind, so mind your health. It's in your mind, so mind your health. Your physical is essential, but your mind is super special. So mind your health.
Celebrate the dawning of the Sabbath with us tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. sharp as we bring to you Youth Mission Live. Brandon Daly and the dynamic team awaits you. It's 7:30 p.m. right here on the EJC Virtual Church.